Hello and welcome to another Unity tutorial, and today I will show you how to add a very simple interactable NPC to your game. So first things first, you want to create a script and call it NPC. And in the NPC script, I just created a little checklist for us. And you got to add a collider to the NPC and set isTrigger to true. Perfect. So let's select our NPC, add a component, and add a collider. I just think that it works nicest with the sphere collider. You can use any collider. First, check the isTrigger box, because I know a lot of you will forget it. I always forget it. And then set the radius to something around 5. This is going to be the area that the player will be able to interact with the NPC. So if I walk in this area, I will be able to talk to him or whatever you want the NPC to do. And now make sure you add a using Unity engine.ui namespace, and then add a public button and call it the interact button, because it is indeed the interact button. And then add a bool can interact and default it to false. Void on trigger enter. And like in my other tutorial, I'm going to take in a collider and other, and then if other dot compare tag player, I know I put a space there. So if other, and other is the thing that hits the collider. If other has the player tag, for now our player actually doesn't have a player tag, but we'll add that soon. And if he does have a player tag, then we want to enable our interact button, because by default it will be disabled. So interact button dot game object dot set active but not false but true, because we want it to turn on. So we want it to activate whenever we walk close. And also change can interact to true. And then we want to add a second function, which is going to be void on trigger, not 3Gs, to trigger exit. So this is what's going to happen when the player actually leaves the area. So if other dot compare tag player, because we only want this to work if it's actually the player, not just any random thing. And then we can copy these two lines and just reverse them. So instead of set active to true, we sent this to false, because we want it to be to make the button disappear again. And then can interact to false, because we don't want it to be able to interact. And then in update, we will actually check if he can interact. And if he can interact and he presses an interact button, so input get button down interact. So if he presses an interact button, that we will set up in the input settings soon enough. So if he clicks on it, so in our case it's going to be clicking E, we want to interact, and we want it to do the same thing that the button does. Because I usually, whenever I'm playing games, I don't just want to click buttons on the screen. I'd much rather just press a key, and this will actually allow us to do so. Perfect. So next thing, go back to Unity, select your player, and give him the player tag. If you don't have a player tag on this list, click add tag, and then just add a player tag. Make sure it's player with a capital P, and then add interact input. So edit project settings, the input manager. I just like to duplicate jump, so right click on jump and click duplicate array element, and then rename this to interact. It's very important that it has to be spelled the same way as it is in your script. So if you spell this differently, make sure you spell this one differently too. And the positive button, so the button that it represents, I just want it to be E, because I want to interact with E. And then you can just close this. Let's go back to our checklist. Interact button. Now we actually have to create the interact button. So let's right click, go UI, button, text mesh pro, and call this the interact button. Then just go to the canvas, select the button, drag it down, drag it wherever you want it to be, make it look good, and then, very important, is to reselect the button, not the text object, and disable it with this little icon here. And then you want to select your NPC again, check your script on it, and then it will ask you for the interact button. So just put the interact button over there. Alright, and now when we play, where's the NPC? There he is. When I walk near him, an interact button pops up on my screen. Now it won't actually do anything even if I click on it, but it's something. So now what we want to do is create a script that will do something whenever we click the button or click E. So I would just select the interact button, click add component, and now what I would do is just create an interact, or in fact we can just do this inside of our script. I would create another function and call it void, actually public void, because we want to ask that from a button. So public void interact. And this can be actually whatever you want it to be. It doesn't really matter. Just for the sake of this video, we're gonna make it very simple. It's just gonna be debug.log interacted. There we go. Perfect. So all that's left to do is go back to Unity, select the button, and add an on-click event. Put your NPC object over there, and then NPC, that's the NPC script, and then we want to find the interact function that we just created. And then if we go to our console and we play again, we can see that if we go near the player and click E, there we go, it says interacted. And this can do anything. You can follow a tutorial on how to get a dialogue system working, and this is how you want to start your dialogue, or you can code in an item system and have them give you an item, or whatever. This can really be anything.